Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the American Outdoorsman. My name's Mark Tobin, and where in the world are we going to take you to this week? Well, we're down here at the beautiful Pomme De Terre Lake in central Missouri, and this week we're going to be fishing for some wintertime crappie. And I tell you, I'm just tickled to death to have with me today a good friend and one of the best crappie fishermen in the state of Missouri. It's tournament angler Alan Morgan from Springfield, Missouri. So I hope you can watch today's show. I got a good one lined up for you today. So why don't you just sit back and relax, and we're going to get started with this right after we take this quick time out.
There's one.
Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we're down here at Pomme De Terre Lake with my good friend Alan Morgan. He's got a little bit of growing left to do on him.
Yes, he's a little fella.
But we're doing some wintertime crappie fishing down here. And you know, Alan, in the springtime, most people don't have any problem finding the crappie. You know, when they move in up on the shallow water, most people don't have any problem with them. But it's after they spawned and they move back out toward the deep water that some people can have some problems with them. And you know, there's no doubt if you're fishing this time of year where you did in the spring, you're probably going to be having some problems finding those crappie. So when you're going out in the winter this time of year, what do you expect the crappie to be doing? Where are you going to look to find them?
Well, usually, oh, missed that one. Usually in the wintertime, the fish move to these bluffs. When they move into these bluffs, they've got access to deep water, and if they want to go shallow, they can just push up on it. They always follow their food. The shad and everything else will move into these bluffs where they've got the deep water to go to the thermocline line, and it's a lot warmer there, so they just move up and down as the weather lets them.
Well, now we're fishing in 30 foot of water. Are these right on the bottom?
A lot of times they'll be in the winter like this is December, they'll move anywhere from 30 foot up. Sometimes you'll pitch a jig in there and they won't be 10 foot deep. But I feel like a lot of times when you catch them shallow like that, they're looking up and they'll run up and grab it.
Oh, so they might have been down a little bit deeper to begin with, and they just came up and chased that bait. Well, what's the difference? I mean, what determines in your mind whether or not they're going to be on the bottom or whether or not they're going to be up suspended?
Well, usually you just start out fishing and let the fish tell you what they're doing.
I just never quite understand what they're saying.
You picked that good.
I see your rod bending.
Yeah.
Wiggling.
That's another one of them little white fellers. Oh, he's a little livelier.
Yes, he is.
It seems like some of them are pretty sluggish when they're down there. But then the others, they're mean. Oh! Slap him on the water so he can get back.
Slap some sense into him.
Yeah.
Now, how did you catch that? Was that one down on the bottom?
Yeah, I was just letting it float. It hit the bottom and I just jerked it up and let it fall right on down this steep bank. So as he was falling down that steep bank, he just slapped right onto her.
So they seem to be active enough. We don't need to just sit right on top of them with our lure motionless.
That's right. We need to move along. Just, you know, kind of either let the wind drift or just keep the tow motor going a little bit. As that old jig falls right in there to him.
You can't resist it. There's one. Well, he is way down there. He's going to be cross-eyed when I get him up here. There you go. Not a huge fish, but still fun this time of year. You know, Alan, we're catching these on this bluff. It's deep water, 28, 30 foot deep. What kind of cover you catch them on these bluffs? I don't see a whole lot of brush down there. It doesn't look like on the locator, but what do you look for on these bluffs?
We look for any kind of structure on the bottom, whether it be a big rock or brush. They'll hang to a rock pile or just a big rock.
Just plain old rock.
Plain old rock. It don't have to be anything.
Huh.
Just something for them to kind of hug up against a little.
Well, that's encouraging. It doesn't seem like in this lake there, and I know there's lots of lakes all across the country that are just like that, where there's not a lot of visible cover, not a lot of brush. But that's not that important. Just look for some big old chunk rock or things like that.
Yes, there's one.
All right. Down there in the deeps again?
Yep.
Well, look at there.
I'd probably have to slap him back against the water to get him to go back down.
Yeah, that's one thing. Now that's coming out of 30 foot of water, and they don't necessarily like being dragged up out of that water that quick, do they?
No, they don't. A lot of times you've got to slap them back against the water pretty hard to get the air bubble back out of them, so they'll go down.
Yeah, they don't get that air bubble out right, and a lot of times, you know, you try to let those go and they'll just float. But there's not a thing wrong with slapping those things down on the water.
No,
that doesn't hurt them, does it?
It doesn't hurt them at all. What it does is just it gets them to go back down.
There he goes.
There he goes.
Didn't bother him one bit. But that's what you need to do, slap them on that water and force that air bubble out of their bladder, and then they're just fine and smarter for it. There's one. Come on up here. You frisky? There you go.
Another white one.
Another white one. Now, Alan, we've got a cold front that come through today. Yesterday it was up in the 60s, and today I think we're going to be lucky to get out of the 30s. Now, how does a cold front like that affect the fish in this deep water?
Myself, I don't think it bothers them that much. It will affect them. But since they're down there around that thermocline line, the fish pretty much, you know, are the same day after day. I think sunshine will affect them more than about anything.
How's that? In what way?
It'll bring them up, and actually, I like the sunshine on these deeper beds and fish like this. But
Hey, there's another one.
no.
Oh, hey,
Oh, he dropped off.
there, I got one too.
Okay, maybe yours will drop off.
Oh, they're down there deep.
Mm-hmm.
Not real huge, but man, they're fun to catch.
They are.
Boy, they come out of that cold water. That meat is so nice and firm. Those are some good eating this time of year. Well, we're going to give these fish just a quick break. We'll be right back with you, though. Another one.
He's behind us a little bit there.
Oh, that's not a bad one there. That's a black crappie.
Yeah.
Oh, nice black crappie. Look at him.
Really trying to act like a bass, isn't he?
Come here, baby.
Come here, bud. Oh.
That's a pretty nice crappie. Good,
Yeah.
chunky crappie.
That's a typical fish there in this lake.
And that's a black crappie.
That's the old black crappie.
You can see the difference between a black and a white crappie. These black crappie are more speckled. A white crappie, it'll have more vertical lines on it. These have a fewer spines than a white crappie, but they're, you know, a lot of people confuse those with a spawning male crappie. The white male crappie turns black in the spring, and there's a confusion with some people that between the black and the white crappie. But they are two different species, or not species, but really
They are a
have
different
no idea
species.
what
They're
it is.
just yeah,
There he goes. That was a good one.
Didn't have to slap him as hard.
You know, Alan, this lake has come down. They're dropping the water now. We've had some rain earlier this month, and the lake was up a couple of feet, and in just a week and a half now, they've dropped this lake, what, 1.5 foot or 2 foot?
Yeah, they've dropped it about 2 foot.
Well, how does falling water like that affect these fish?
Again, on these deeper fish, it don't really affect them. They're basically right here for the winter. They don't hardly move. You'll have good days and bad days. Your barometer, or your barometric pressure, there we go, mouthful. That affects the fish as much as anything. And even though these are deep, that still doesn't bother them quite as much.
Now, how does the barometric pressure affect them? I mean, do they bite better in a low pressure or high pressure?
The low pressure, they get real moody and slow down their metabolism and everything a lot, and they just don't feed. As the pressure gets on up, I like it in about 29, 90 something. And that range there up to a little over 30 is usually the best. I like it right in there real well.
Oh, there. Hello. Oh, hey, got a little bit of weight under him.
Yeah. Uh-oh, I think you've got the wrong baby.
There he is.
Ah.
Hey there.
Oh boy.
Well, these fish that we're catching, we're able to cast to them, and this is a really steep drop off here, and it's not necessary to just hang the lure right on top of their face and finesse them. I'm able to work that lure down the drop off real slow, and they're hitting it while the lure's moving.
He even knows what he's doing.
There's another one.
Hey, you bet your top
On that
jig.
top jig.
Yeah.
I'm using Mr. Twister's twister tails today. But man, they just don't want that jig moving too awful fast. I don't care how aggressive they get in the winter. You got to move that jig mighty slow this time of year, don't you?
That's right. They don't get in a real fast mood.
Oh, he was frisky.
Yeah, he took off, didn't he?
I'm just barely working. I'm casting up toward the shallow part of this drop off and working it back down toward the deep water. Just move it ever so slowly. But on the other hand, the lure is moving. I mean, I don't have to keep it just dead still to catch them either. But Alan, now we're not using minnows today. Do you think it's necessary to? Do you think the fishing be any better, or do you think it's necessary to use minnows this time of year?
I don't. A lot of people like to use them. Maybe it's easier for them to use them. To me, it's a lot more fun to jig fish versus minnow fishing.
Well, I sure don't like sticking my hand in that cold water to dip out a minnow this time of year.
I sure don't either.
Well, I agree. I just don't think it's necessary. Some people, I think, ooh, wow, boy, they hit it pretty good. Some people have it in their mind that they just can't catch a fish without a minnow, but boy, just give it some time. Keep trying, and I guarantee you will catch fish without you having to use a minnow.
Here's one. Yeah, you're not too big though.
What'd you catch that on, Alan?
Ooh, plum.
What kind of lure is that? It's got a
That's
little twister tail.
We call it a swimming minnow.
Well, what do you like about that this time of year?
Just the action of that tail on it. I like that action. It's got a little movement to it. A lot of times you use tube jigs in the winter like this, and they do real well.
Well, you think, as slow as we're working these lures, that you wouldn't get enough tail action out of those lures, but you get plenty of tail action even though you're moving it slow.
Yes, it's that particular swimming minnow, as we call it. It does real well, and it's just barely moving. It'll do that. And it seems like a lot of times that's all it takes is just a little movement from it like that. It looks alive. Ooh.
Gosh, missed it.
swallowed that, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He was hungry. All right. Way to go, Big Al.
Oh, blind Sal found me. Hot dog. Gotten a little tough since that wind switched. That's what everybody needs to remember. In the wintertime, the fish don't stop biting. They feed all winter long, just like you or I.
So just get out and do it.
Yes,
And this can be one of the times of the year where you can have some of the best catches of the year.
yes.
And that's one thing I like about fishing this deep water. You know, that's the most stable. The cold fronts that come through don't affect the deep fish near as much as they do shallow fish. So you can pretty much rely on those fish during this time of year, no matter what the weather does. There's one there. That feels like a decent fish there.
That looks good.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a nice one. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, that's pretty.
Well, he swallowed it
Big
too.
old mouth. Well, he did. He swallowed it. Just inhaled that jig. He wanted that for a meal. Well, when they eat it like that, you know that those fish are somewhat turned on. They're feeding pretty good when they inhale a jig like that. Nice black crappie. Well, I'll let you go back down there and continue with your feeding.
That one didn't have air bubble, did he?
No?
There you
go.
go.
There you are. Oh, how fun. Alan, you can't beat spending a winter day out crappie fishing. You know, anybody on any given day can go out and do exactly the opposite of what we just told them to do today and have success. There's one thing about crappie fishing, there are no absolutes. But the bottom line is you just need to get out. Wintertime doesn't mean it's time to put your rods and reels away for the year. Get out and do some fishing. Well, it's time to say goodbye, Al. Boy, I sure enjoyed fishing with you today. God, it's a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys inviting me.
Well, thank you for sharing this with us today. And I want to send out a special thanks to all of you out there. Thank you for spending your time watching our show. I honestly appreciate it. I sure hope we get to do it again. But until that time, the next time I see you, I hope I see you in the great outdoors. So long, everybody.
good.